Air travel is truly amazing. Because of it, it's easier than ever before to see the world and all its incredible cultures. But just because you're on a plane doesn't mean there aren't rules, and if you break them, there can be dire consequences. So, from turning off airplane mode to climbing into the overhead compartments, get ready for some things you should absolutely never do on an airplane.
Enjoy watching. Let's go!
Spoil shorts. My last vacation got off to a poor start. I'd only just boarded the plane when the flight attendant told me I had to take off my Batman costume or leave. It turns out airlines have dress codes. What's more, different airlines have different codes. And these can change depending on the country you're flying to. Geez, confusing or what? See, some countries, like Indonesia, are predominantly Muslim, and as such dress more conservatively than other places. So if you're flying there, it's polite to cover up before getting on the plane. But it's worth looking into clothing guidelines before getting on any flight. Dirty, torn, or revealing clothes can breach codes and get you kicked off the plane, which makes sense. But sometimes so can things as benign as flip-flops. Seriously.
Let's go!
Back in July 2021, Turkish bodybuilder Deniz Saypenar made headlines when she tried to board an American Airlines flight to Miami. Apparently, her shorts were too short, so she was duct taped to one of the chairs and left there. Okay, not really. She was just denied entry onto the plane. Somebody actually was duct taped to a seat for a very different reason, but you'll have to stick around to find out about that. Anyway, after being refused onto the plane, Saypenar was understandably upset and took to social media to vent her frustrations. According to the bodybuilder, she wasn't dressed offensively at all, and the whole thing was an attack on her freedoms as a woman. What do you think? Were the airline staff right, or has Saypenar got a good point? Would a man have been refused entry if he was wearing the same outfit? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. No signal. No problem. You've probably heard the horror stories about what'll happen if you don't put your cell phone on airplane mode during a flight. Planes will fall from the sky, chaos will ensue. Well, you'll be glad to hear that's not quite true. But you should still turn it on. When you do, it blocks the phone from searching for signal. Some pieces of pilot's equipment use the same radio frequencies as cell phones and tablets to function. So when your phone looks for a signal, it can intervene and disrupt them. Think of it like tuning an old-school analog radio. When two stations are on a similar frequency, they can interfere with one another and make the signal unclear. It's the same thing here. And pilots need this equipment to tell how far they are from the ground during takeoff and landing. Pretty important stuff. Indeed, back in January 2017, the pilots of a Boeing 737 lost all of their map displays and computers while they were in flight. Whoa! Miraculously, they managed to get the situation under control and avoid crashing, but investigators reckon someone's cell phone signal could have been to blame. As scary as this whole thing is, no planes have ever actually crashed from cell phone interference, at least not yet. However, it's still a good idea to text your mom after the flight, not during. Hello, this is your captain speaking. Don't even think about putting that phone on airplane mode right now though. Hit those like and subscribe buttons instead. That way, when we land, you'll never miss another amazing video like this one. All done? Okay. Enjoy the rest of your journey, Phantom Flyer. Now, I've been on quite a few flights in my life, and they've all been pretty boring. American actor, Emerson Collins, definitely can't say the same though. In September 2022, Collins was on board a plane when suddenly he started hearing this. And it didn't stop there. Strange, guttural noises carried on for seemingly ages, and at one point, a flight attendant had to announce an apology. Ladies and gentlemen, we realize there's an extremely irritating sound coming over the public announcement. The flight deck is trying to troubleshoot, trying to turn it off, so please be patient with us. We know it's a very odd, and so what the heck is going on? Well, this wasn't the work of some high-flying ghost. Somebody had apparently hacked into the plane's PA system and was pranking everyone on board. How they did this, nobody's sure. But the weird noises went on for the entire flight. if you got caught doing this, I'm sure you could experience some serious legal repercussions. But as far as I'm aware, nobody did get caught, and the mystery remains unsolved to this day. So the main consequence was just annoying the hell out of the captain and cabin crew. Hey, I'm not complaining, I just got a new ringtone. Contact Chaos. What's drier than eating a cracker in the desert? Clue. The answer's not my incredible sense of humor. It's actually an aircraft cabin, because there are so many people in a commercial plane, fresh air needs to be pumped in, or all the passengers would run out of oxygen and suffocate. But when you're 30,000 feet high, there's hardly any moisture in the atmosphere, so any air that's brought in is super dry. This isn't just uncomfortable, it could be legitimately dangerous, at least if you wear contact lenses. You see, the dry air dehydrates your eyes, which in most cases just makes them feel uncomfortable. But it can also cause the lenses to tighten around them and rip microscopic tears into your cornea, that is the eye's outer layer. Ouch. So if you need to wear your contacts on board, make sure you bring eye drops to relieve any dryness, and never sleep with them in. You could wake up feeling like someone's plunged hot coals into your eye sockets, though with some of the in-flight movies they choose to show, maybe that wouldn't be such a bad alternative. Standing ovation. I can't stand people who clap when the plane lands. Do they also clap when their food arrives at a restaurant or when the mail turns up? I don't think so. Still, I'd prefer clapping over a load of people jumping out of their seats. The seatbelt light isn't just there to look pretty. When it's on, don't stand up. If you're mid-flight, the pilots probably activated it, because they reckon you're about to hit some turbulence. You know, that pant-wettingly scary thing when it feels like the plane's about to crash. It's not. It's just colliding with air currents, but if you're standing up, you could get thrown to the floor. Even when you're not going through turbulence and it feels like you're hardly moving at all, you could actually be racing forward at nearly 600 miles per hour. So if the pilot has to use the brakes for any reason, well, you guessed it, you'll be sent flying. Just don't do it. And please, don't clap when you land either. I will steal your complimentary in-flight peanuts. Plain potato. Plane journeys can be long and deadly boring, so it's tempting to sleep for the whole ride or maybe watch the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy, but neither of those are great ideas. If you stay seated for hours on end, without any kind of movement, you could get yourself in big trouble. That's because sitting still for long periods of time can disrupt the blood flow in your body, slowing it down and sometimes blocking it entirely. You've probably had pins and needles before. Well, it's kind of like that, except it can get a lot worse. If you don't move around, blood cells might clump together and cause clots in your legs, leading to painful swelling. This is called deep vein thrombosis and can be excruciating. In the worst cases, you might even get a clot in your lungs, which is really bad news and could be life-threatening, and you only need to be motionless for 4 measly hours to be at risk. So next time you fly, remember to get up and have a little wiggle every now and then.
Subscribe.
Just not when the seatbelt sign's on, alright? Filthy flights. I think we can all agree that littering is bad, but people who leave their litter festering on planes, well, they're the worst. Flight attendants are often only paid for their time in the air. So, if there's any trash left on the plane after landing, they have the disgusting task of cleaning it without even getting any money. And I really do mean disgusting. As well as old food. One attendant reported finding, brace yourself, countless dirty diapers and soiled underwear stuffed into the seat pockets. Oh man, diapers are bad enough, but actual adults' underwear? Come on. And it gets even worse. Other attendants have found used catheters, toilet paper, and even bottles of pee. How did they even, actually? I don't want to know. Just please, for the sanity of the poor people charged with cleaning up this mess, don't leave trash on the planes. And never, ever put your food in the seat pockets. You have no idea what horrors have been in there before. Peculiar passengers. Now, don't get me wrong, I love pets, but I wouldn't want to take one on a plane with me. Even so, some airlines allow all sorts of animals on board as long as they're well behaved. Others only allow service animals like guide dogs. But to get around this, people began bringing their non-service pets on board and claiming they were service animals so that the critters could travel for free. You're talking guide horses, peacocks, and even pigs, and these so-called service animals, would often run amok, pooping everywhere, being noisy, and generally causing chaos. Jeez. Because of this, a new law was passed banning all service animals other than dogs from flying, but some people argue this is unfair on those who genuinely rely on them. Regardless, there are far worse things you can bring onto a plane than a peacock. Yep. Back in 2012, a man caught a wild Egyptian cobra and shoved it in his hand luggage to bring back to his reptile shop in Kuwait. Somehow, he managed to get it onto the plane, but once he was seated, controlling the restless reptile proved difficult. Egyptian cobras are very aggressive and super venomous, and after a short struggle, it bit him and escaped into the cabin. It was pandemonium. From what I can tell, the man survived despite his stupidity, but in the ensuing panic, the plane had to make an emergency landing so the snake could be dealt with. And there I was thinking snakes on a plane was silly. A few years later, in 2016, something arguably even more terrifying happened. One passenger on a flight to Montreal was relaxing on her iPad when she suddenly felt a tickle on her leg. Looking down, she realized with a pang. It was a great big tarantula. She smacked it away from her, but it wasn't the only one. Somebody had brought 2 of the spiders on board to bring home as pets. So the rest of the flight, passengers were forced to stand on their seats to avoid the creepy crawlies. Am I the only one getting itchy? The forbidden orders. I don't know about you, but every time I'm on a plane, it takes about 5 minutes for my mouth to feel as dry as the Sahara Desert. But when that all-important refreshment trolley comes round, think twice before you make your order. More specifically, don't choose tea or coffee. Water tanks on planes are often old and full of bacteria, and tea, coffee, and even ice will probably utilize them, meaning your tea could come with a side of illness. Gross. Sticking to bottled drinks is much less risky, despite the extortionate prices. If you're old enough to drink alcohol though, there's even more to watch out for. When you're 12,000 feet high in the air, there's far less oxygen than there is on the ground. The pressurized cabin ensures you can breathe, but you're still more likely to feel lightheaded and nauseous. If you combine that with a good slosh of booze, it can get out of hand fast. In June 2021, a passenger got so drunk, he tried to bite a member of the cabin crew and had to be locked inside the airplane washroom. What? I mean, I get a little peckish after a few beers, but a kebab usually does the trick. Regardless, the man was sentenced to 20 months in jail for both the assault and his intoxicated state. Because even if he hadn't bit anyone, he still would have been breaking the law. It's a criminal offense to be drunk on a plane. And after that story, I can definitely see why.
Please like, share, subscribe.